without further ado, when I hear Mike speak, I always, actually, how can I speak with Mike? I always find he's very grounded when he speaks. I think I come away feeling very grounded. So, not grounded, but I'm grounded in any sense. Grounded in confidence and security. So I'm looking forward to what you're saying here today. Mike is there's extensive training in corporations and leadership management and organizations. And he's going to be speaking today about mindfulness in organizations. Mike Verhey.
Thank you. So my focus has been on leadership and on coaching, and I got informed a little while ago that I was going to do the wellness panel. I thought maybe that was an affirmation of what I needed to focus on. What do I do to just screen up here? Okay.
Space bar.
Okay, good, because I've only got a few slides. What I wanted to focus on is really in a coaching context. Actually, from what David talked about, more from a clinical perspective. In coaching, anxiety, and in some cases, depression is a factor. And so I thought I'd take 10 to 12 minutes to talk about. And I've actually kind of timed it out, and this is the first time I've done this presentation, but we're going to finish with some a brief exercise. So when you're upset or depressed, should you analyze your feeling or figure out what's wrong? This is a question that comes up often. Or should you just forget about it and move on? There's new research and theories that suggest that if you want to think about your problems, do so from a detached perspective, rather than reliving the experience. And I'll go into that in a bit more in detail. The answer is related to some new developments in psychology. Processing emotions is supposed to help you facilitate coping, but when attempts to understand painful feelings, they often backfire or strengthen negative emotions when you're actually reliving that experience. The solution seems to be neither denial nor distraction as a strategy. It's being very effective. So the research that's been conducted recently by at the University of Michigan psychologist Ethan Cross, who says the best way to move forward emotionally is to examine one's feelings from a distance or detached perspective. Cross, along with University of California colleague Azam Ada, conducted a series of studies that provide the first experiential evidence or experimental evidence, sorry, of the benefits of taking a detached perspective on your problems. Cross says, reviewing our mistakes over and over, re-experiencing the same negative emotions we felt the first time tends to keep us stuck emotionally. Their study, published in July 2008, described how they randomly assigned 141 participants to groups that required them to either focus or not to focus on their feelings using different strategies in a guided imagery exercise. It led them to recall an experience that made them feel overwhelmed by sadness or depression. In the immersed analysis condition, that's when they were really focusing in on it, participants were told to go back to the same time and place the experience and relive it as if it was happening to them again. And try to understand the emotions they felt along with the underlying causes. In the detached analysis condition, the subjects were told to go back in time and place of the experience, take a few steps back, and move away from the experience, and watch it unfold as though it were happening to them from a distance. Is that me already?
No.
Okay, I was just saying. I've timed this out. I should only be at like 3.5 right now. So to see it as it happened from a distance and try to understand what they felt and the reasons for the feelings, what lessons were to be learned. So looking at it from a different perspective. The results of the experiment, immediately after the exercise, the distance analysis approach, subjects reported lower levels of anxiety, depression, sadness compared to the subjects who used the immersed analysis strategy. 1 week later, the participants were questioned, and those who had used the distance analysis strategy continued to show lower levels of depression, anxiety, and sadness. And in a related study, related to what you were saying, David, Adick and Cross showed that participants who adopted a self-distance perspective while thinking about their problems related to anger showed reduction in blood pressure. So a number of the researchers and psychologists were incorporating like-minded studies to drive new approaches for dealing with anxiety and depression. And this is in the context of coaching. These third-wave psychologists, and that's what they're being referred to, first wave, second wave, and third wave. These third-wave psychologists are focusing less on how to manipulate the content of our thoughts and more on how to change their context. They modify the way they see their thoughts and feelings. They would argue that trying to directly correct negative thoughts can actually intensify them. And as an NLP trained coach would say, telling someone not to think about a pink elephant actually focuses their mind on a pink elephant. Traditional psychologist approach is to engage a process of analyzing your way out of your problems. A third way approach encourages a focus on workability while supporting acceptance that one naturally has negative thoughts, beliefs, and problems. So there's an acknowledgement. It's basically, in light of what we were talking about earlier, Ruth, there's a greater degree of mindfulness that's emerging through this third wave approach. It's very consistent with much of the training that many life coaches and therapists receive, inclusive, of course, of NLP and other disciplines. The emphasis is on the following. Okay, basically, what the emphasis from a third wave perspective says, we need to be looking at thoughts rather than from thoughts. So there's a greater degree of mindfulness, but it's actually looking and observing the thoughts as opposed to coming from those thoughts. And it can be, when I thought about 12 minutes, there's a whole lot of ways to put this model out. However, I came up with the following, and that was that the third wave, looking as a main focus of increasing psychological flexibility, it has three components. One is the accept aspect, and that is broad acceptance from the standpoint of you need to be able to accept your thoughts, your feelings, be present and be mindful. The choose is a valued direction. So there's an understanding that we have a sense of what our values are. Some of them in the third wave context are really looking at workability. So what is it that you need to do in terms of what's true for you from a values perspective and what's workable, and not unlike our NLP context, which is take action in line with those values. So there's really a third wave that takes into account more of a mindful approach. What I'd like to do, just how much time do I have?
You're about 8 minutes.
Okay, I'm good. What I'd like to do is a little exercise, and if you could get a pencil or pen, just complete the following individually first. What I'd like you to do is, as you see on the slide, there's a series of days, and I would like you to come up with a color for that day. When you think about that day, what is the color that you would assign to that particular day? This is not an extensive exercise. It probably only takes about 30 seconds or so. Okay, once you've done that, what I'd like you to do is turn to somebody beside you, your partner on your left or right at the table, and I'd just like you to compare what colors you put to those days. But more to the point, I'd like you to take about 30 seconds to a minute and just talk about why you chose, and just for the sake of brevity, let's take a couple of days. Why did you choose, for example, the color that you chose for Wednesday and Saturday? And just have a brief discussion with your partner. Why did you choose the colors that you chose?
What did you choose?
Yeah. I choose Saturday. Red.
Yeah, red on Saturday.
Yeah. What did you choose for Saturday?
I chose kind of darker colors like a blue or green.
Okay.